Another customer gets scammed by a dealer. Now, you think after all this time, we've been sharing a lot of information about some of the scams that these dealers try to pull, some of the costs and the charges that they throw on invoices, and a lot of people fail to even bother looking at the invoices in depth. They don't look at the numbers, they don't look at the facts, and they don't even ask a lot of questions. After a post I put yesterday about a short about how one of our protection packages was declined by a local dealer, I felt compelled. I put out that short, and shortly thereafter I got an email from somebody who sent me an email about a very similar experience. They bought this car. It's a late model Mercedes-Benz, and they shared me the invoice. And I want to walk you through kind of the invoice and some of the charges they ended up paying and how it ended up being a slap in the face, because even some of the large charges that they got charged, of course, were billed for some aftermarket protection packages. They were also declined. They weren't able to collect and capitalize. And so I want to talk about that, and I want to walk you through this invoice, because here's an invoice. I've got it all blanked out just for privacy reasons. But if you look at this, let's take this from the top. This person bought this late model Mercedes-Benz. They paid $42,475 and change, or that was the list price. Then as you'll notice down below, there is a little bit of a discount. They gave a little bit of a discount there. I'm not sure what that was for. I think it was probably just a slight negotiation in the price of that vehicle. So it came with a grand total of $41,000 and change. Okay, so they $41,000. That's that's where you want to start negotiating, because this was a late model vehicle. It was slightly used. Word has it that there were some negotiations there. I'm not here to debate whether that price was good or not for this particular vehicle. Although we always want to be looking at invoice rather than MSRP. So we always want to chisel harder on new car prices, and on the used car prices like this, you definitely want to do a good market analysis, do a good study as to whether the car you're buying used fits the slot, with the mileage, the condition, no accidents. And if the price seems to be in the right place, then negotiate on that. I mean, the market will bear what the market will bear. So the price of this vehicle, as listed right here, after a bit of a discount, likely a bit of a negotiation, knocked it down. This customer knocked it down to $41,000 and change, okay? So then they take this price, and then we talk about the breakdown of some of the extras. This is where it gets interesting, and I want to talk about this in a little more depth, because this is where often a lot of customers get hosed royally. And unfortunately, this customer was no different. It's at the very top, $41,000 and change, okay? Then there's administrative fee. They go and tack that on. Now, this isn't uncommon. This is typical practice. But administrative fee, yes, I realize they have to pay their admin people. They have to pay to keep the lights on and the water and the, in the waiting room and concierge and all these other factors. But I always struggle with some of these fees. You should always be pushing back on these types of fees, administrative fees. Remember, don't feel sorry for these dealers. Realistically, the dealers already have all those costs sort of blended in to the price here. So when they're marketing their vehicles, they have a little reconditioning that they put into it, and they already kind of incorporate that in this pricing here. All these other fees are local dealer add-ons that they're hoping to recoup a little extra money. That's a little top up for them. But realistically, this is the cost of doing business, and these prices are essentially what you're targeting. And admin fees, I always struggle with people paying admin fees, but there you have it. So you paid that admin fee. Then there's this other one, finance setup charge. Why are people paying a finance setup charge? See, there's more scams in my mind. And I know they'll use any kind of justification in their mind, and they think that's and it might even be best practice at this particular dealership. But why are you paying for a finance setup fee? Why? Because you have to move from the salesperson's desk over to the finance officer's desk, and then they're going to charge you hundreds of dollars for that? That absolutely seems ludicrous to me. Okay. So you should definitely not pay that. So there's a couple of fees right there. There's almost $1,000 in fees that this customer should not have been paying. Okay. Then we have this 5-star tier 2 for $2,200 and change. Okay. Over $2,000 for this 5-star protection package. Now this is where it gets interesting. This is where they were declined. They went in after paying this $2,000 fee, which essentially included a few options. Now we hear about this all the time. Key fob being one of them. If you have a problem with your key fob, They may or may not fix that or replace it potentially. Rim protection. Okay, this was one of the bones of contention. And it wasn't well communicated to the buyer. And according to this buyer, they scraped a wheel. Then supposedly this $2,000 included also some glass coverage, so you had X amount of free windshields in a 3-year or whatever, a couple year time frame. So they capitalized on a couple of those glass, but we know I know for a fact in this particular case, this car is a C-Class. It doesn't have heads-up display. It doesn't have all the fancy sensors in the windshield. So glass for this car is $250, okay? They've replaced it twice under this warranty. You're talking $500 in glass coverage, okay? $500 in glass coverage, and they took the dealer up on it. After a little bit of negotiation, a little bit of back and forth, they were able to actually capitalize and get the free windshield replacements. The unfortunate part is they scraped a rim and went back to the dealer and said, look, hey, I've got this package here. I've got this. I need to get the wheel fixed. I curbed it going around a corner, scraped the wheel. The tire's in okay shape. Everything's fine. Structurally, the tire's fine. Can we get this polished up? Well, so after going to the dealer, the customer was very upset, believing that this $2,000 tab that they were paying for extra protection didn't protect them at all. So the dealer came back and said, declined. You actually have to have the type of failure that would destroy the tire, then coincidentally would damage the rim enough that would warrant a replacement or repair of that rim. That's what they're telling the customer after the fact. But the rubber wasn't damaged, so they were declining the option. But they had all these gouges and scratches in the wheel now. What are you paying $2,000 for? A couple of sheets of glass and the chance that you might absolutely destroy your rim by crashing into a curb hard and wrecking everything? In which case, we know if you're hitting something hard enough that you're blowing out a tire, you're wrecking your rim, there's a good chance you're breaking suspension, and you might even cause some body damage with how these cars sit so low today. In which case, most often than not, people are going to their insurance company. So why are people getting rooked into this? I'm going to say skip this garbage. You got $500 worth of windshield out of it. You're getting declined for this kind of stuff. These dealers are scamming the customers, not being well communicating on the front end about the type of condition that would incur to require that replacement or repair of that wheel. And they're not being clear. They're just saying, oh, you get a few scratches and gouges, and that's what they were told up front, who by coincidentally, that the person that sold this, the individual no longer works at the dealer, I was told. So it's not like it's he said, she said now. It's all written down, whatever it says. So this is the situation now. This customer got hosed, not able to collect on a scratched rim, and unfortunately only $500 collect on this glass. So that's a pretty clear and obvious one that I need to continually reiterate to buyers. Do not buy those third-party extended warranties. They're trash, they're garbage, and people get ripped off time and time again. And it burns me to the core to see people pay these fees, but here it is. And there's a fee. Now there's another one, AMVIC. Now this is an Alberta fee. There's OMVIC for if you're in Ontario. These are Canadian fees. It's basically almost like a license to print money. It's sort of an agency within that's supposed to protect the customer, protect the dealers, and it's sort of an intermediary, a bit of an insurance to make sure that these dealers are AMVIC registered or OMVIC registered, that they're going to play nice in the sandbox, okay? With regards to treatment of customers, repairs, service, all of those factors, it's supposed to sort of be that controlling measure. But I've said no. I mean, I know it's only $6 and change, but I've declined this before, and I've literally got my, my gaunch in a knot over this one because it's out of principle. Just like glass etching, I went to a dealer once recently, and I was looking at a used Jeep, and they had put on the AMVIC fee, and they put on glass etching, and I'll have none of either of those. That's an absolute ripoff. And so what they ended up doing, they said, no, we have to pay it. Everybody pays it. I said, I don't pay it. I don't care. I said, that's a cost for you to do business. And so don't let these people, these dealers, try to throw all these fees on here. I mean, first of all, negotiate the price. Don't do an all-in, because then they'll work the numbers to make sure they get paid in all these fees. Make sure you carve out this price the best that you can. Know that you're happy with this. Then we don't want to bring in the conversation about trade-ins and car trade-ins or vehicles, car, truck, SUV trade-ins until at the very end. Don't even talk about that yet. Just work through all of these numbers. When you're happy at the very end of the invoice, that's when you start talking about, oh, I have this trade. If you want to trade it, if you don't like the trade, you can always walk away, sell privately. That's always my best suggestion, particularly if you're driving something that's more sought after, Honda, Toyota, easier to sell vehicles. Often I would just try to sell them privately because you're always going to get a better deal there. But this AMVIC fee, always push back on that. That's garbage. Then we have this vehicle price. So there's the grand total, $44,000 and change. And then on top of it, okay, you have GST, because this is Canada, goods and services tax. You can't avoid it. It's 5%. Other provinces, you'll have also PST. Those are taxes you really can't avoid. I will say, though, if you're providing a trade-in, that takes off that differential on the GST. So they'll only charge you the tax on the difference. So if, say, your trade was $20,000, they'll only charge you GST on the difference, which is $21,000 or $27,000 and change. Okay, so trade-ins can and do help you against the GST, but everybody has to pay that in Canada. But we have this other fee, PPSA. It's a personal property security cost, essentially what it is. And it's a cost that the province, or in some cases different jurisdictions, will bill these dealers essentially to transact with leases, financing fees. Now, I personally would push back on that. Why am I paying this PPSA of 20 some odd dollars? And they do say, I mean, if you can Google it, you can look it up. A lot of dealers do end up passing those costs down to the buyer. They do. But a lot of these costs are passed, admin fees, glass etching, all those things. It doesn't mean it's right. So here in my best wisdom and my best suggestion, push back on everything. Play hardball. These people don't care. They're playing hard. They're business. This is business. You don't care. You're not trying to be nice. You don't want to be nice. You're not trying to be their friends. You don't want to be on their mailing list. And anyway, if you build some hard feelings in the sales shop here with this negotiations, it doesn't matter, because from that point on, you're dealing more with the service department anyway, and it's a whole different group of people. Who cares? It's not about building the relationship with these salespeople. Most of these people are come and go like the wind. Here today, gone tomorrow. Most of these people you won't even see in 6 months' time. So the bottom line is, it's unfortunate, and I heard from this customer, and they shared this with me after I shared my little discussion about how we got declined some coverage on our personal insurance on our vehicle. This Mercedes dealer, as you can see Mercedes-Benz up there, declined this particular customer. And here's the invoice. And I just wanted to share how people are getting hosed still to this day on some of these fees that you do not need to pay. Taxes, absolutely you have to. That's kind of the way it goes. But some of these other fees you don't need to, or you can certainly negotiate them out of the contract. Remember, there's always buffer in this space here. The core price of that vehicle, they've always got extra space in there. These dealers always add on. They know if they can put another 10, 12, 15, even 20% above and beyond after reconditioning this vehicle on a trade. They might take a vehicle that's a lease return. It happens to have good mileage, no accident claims. They know when they're taking that in. They know what they're dealing with, and they know how much that they can put into that vehicle before they have to start knocking off prices. So, and again, as I say, that third-party warranty, don't bother. You're going to get hosed. And honestly, for that $2,200, you're likely going to get a lot better. You'll get way more repairs for your money. Put that $2,000 in the bank account instead. Say, look, no, I don't want that $2,000. And I get it. Some people finance everything. But if you could afford to put that $2,000 into your bank account for a rainy day, let that work for you. If you got to take your car down to the rim repair shop and they charge you $500, okay, great. If you need to put a new windshield in, great. Like these costs come, but there's a high probability you'll never come anywhere near spending that money. And so that's really a piece of good faith. and likely you're just handing them money, really, is all you're doing. So people continually be savvy. You've got to understand how these customers are getting hosed. It's bad enough that we're paying these high MSRPs, these high overcharged, overbilled vehicles, both on the new and late model used vehicles. People are getting hosed. We're also paying higher interest rates on our finance and lease rates. So it's a bad time to be buying a car. But the worst thing to do is being charged for some of these extra fees that you see on some of these invoices. It just hurts me, and it's insult to injury. So let this be a warning to you. Don't get hosed by these dealers. Anyway, as with that said, everybody, you want to check that out. You're going to love that video. That one really hits close to home. Hope to see each and every one in the next one. See you real soon. Bye-bye.